In this video, I'm going to show you how we set up our TV when we get to the campground. I'm going to show you how to turn the TV antenna to get better reception, how to scan for channels, and then I'll share with you the strategy we use to get the most channels possible. We have an E Pro E20BHS. I would expect other E Pro and Geo Pro models to be very similar to this. Other campers will also be similar, although the mechanism to turn the antenna might be slightly different. There is options outside of our camper for both cable and satellite hookup. I'm not talking about that in this video. I'm talking about over-the-air channels. Here's the mechanism for turning the antenna. For our camper, this is right in the middle of the roof, in the front of the camper, actually really close to the TV. So anytime we travel, we would turn this into the travel position. So right now it tells you when you go to travel, you're supposed to turn it this way. For reference, this is pointing to the back of the camper right now. So the top of the video is the back of the camper. So it's already in travel position because I can't turn it any farther. And you should have it in travel position when you get to your campground, since you should be driving with it in travel position. By being in travel position, that makes the antenna more aerodynamic. And it will protect the antenna blades that are behind the front. The antenna blades are actually the way the antenna points. So it's actually pointing to the back of the camper right now because it's in travel position. And to turn it, you do have to push up on this and then turn the opposite direction. So if you turned it 180 degrees, it'd now be pointing to the front of the camper. And it does turn all the way around to the back. But again, when you are entirely done using the camper and you're going to travel, you want to turn it all the way back. So this is how you know which way it's pointing. Again, in travel position, the antenna is pointing to the rear of the camper. I would normally do our first scan in this position, but if we are near a larger city, I might point it towards that city and do a scan first, and you might get enough channels and that might be sufficient. At a campground, they may give you information when you check in of which channels you might expect and which direction to point your antenna. Or the other thing I often do is look at other campers, and if multiple of them are pointing in a certain direction, they've probably already done the work for you and you can just scan in that direction. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to leave it in the rear direction to do my first scan. So before I start our scan, I will want to make sure that our antenna power supply is on. This is a booster for the antenna, and without it, you will likely not get very many channels. So ours is behind the TV. There's a little button you need to push and make sure that our green light is on. To start a scan, I simply push the menu button, and then I go over to the channel menu option all the way on the right. And then air cable should be air, but I'm going to do an auto scan, and then click OK to start the scan. And then it's going to search and see what channels it can find. This can take a while. So I'm only going to show this once, but this is what I would do in each of the subsequent positions that I'm going to share with you. And once this is all the way done, you'll know how many channels you found, and you can even try them to see how well they actually come in. Sometimes when you do check into a campground, they will tell you which channels you can expect to get. So as you scan, if you don't get the channels you expect, then you know that you should probably scan again. You can also go online and enter the zip code of where you are, and that will list which channels you can expect as well. The owner manual that I read for this had a website called www.antennaweb.org as a good resource for this. I will add a link to that in the description. If there are other resources you have, both in terms of what channels to expect and which way to turn your antenna in certain locations, please leave us a comment and share that with everybody. When the scan is finished, it will load up the first channel it found. And like in this case, I'm getting a lot of pixelation with the screen, so I would probably, turn it again and do another scan. But you can kind of go through the channels and see which ones are working well and which ones aren't. Some will definitely be clearer than others if they're picking up the reception better for those channels. But in this case, I wouldn't be happy with this. I would definitely do another scan, and I'll kind of walk you through that process next. So once that scan is complete, I would then rotate the antenna 90 degrees to this direction and do my scan again. I'm not going to go through that entire scan process, but then I would compare it with the channels I got the previous time, and then I would repeat that. I'd turn another 90 degrees. So now I'm pointing to the front of the camper. I would do a scan there, and then I would do one more last scan, turning it another 90 degrees to point to the other side of the camper. At that point, I would have done 4 scans in 4 different directions, and I'd have a pretty good idea which direction is giving me the most channels or the best reception. I can then adjust it even further, so you can split the difference between 2 of them. So if I was getting the best channels from the front of the camper and the right of the camper, I could just turn it in between those 2 and do another scan in that direction and just kind of split the difference. And then you can even fine tune it further than that if needed. If this video helped, please give it a like. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions of videos we should make, please leave us a comment. Happy camping, and thanks for watching.